Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you. Peace is what the Syrians want. This is why this revolution is happening. They are stepping from a paradigm of violence, terror, war, and abhorrent behavior to a new model of moral clarity, nonviolent commitment, and a paradigm of coexistence and plurality. I would like to acknowledge that although the Syrian revolution is in general committed to a paradigm of nonviolence, or what in Arabic has become known as silmiya, peacefully resisting the dictatorships, we have to also be realistic and acknowledge that there are varying degrees of commitment to the nonviolent struggle in Syria. So I would like to focus on some groups that have been for years working on the nonviolent struggle in Syria and have been utilizing the principles of civil disobedience or civil awareness in increasing their margin of activism. You probably have followed and heard the story of the recent death of the young nonviolent activist Ghiyath al-Matar. He is one of the people who joined the Daraya youth movement in the last 6 months. And he was taken passionately by the principles of nonviolence, and he was committed to the struggle. In one of his last posts, he wrote that we choose nonviolence or silmiya not out of helplessness, not out of hesitation, not out of weakness, but because we morally believe in this path, and that when we arrive to victory, we want to arrive to victory morally without having destroyed the country. Therefore, we want to continue on this path and endure the obstacles until God wills His decree. This was one of the last posts he wrote a couple of days before his arrest. And as you know, he was arrested on September 6 in a deceptive ambush with 2 other colleagues. Yahya Sharbaji, who has been a very well-known nonviolence figure in Syria in the last 12 years, and recently, because of the revolution, his reputation has become more public and more acknowledged in the Syrian collective situation, given that people are following more the news of activists and they know what people think, and they're investigating the ideas and the principles of the people who are working in the revolution. So the ambush actually, in the ambush, Yahya Sharbaji, his brother, and Ghiyath were arrested. I was actually on Skype talking to some of their friends when this happened, when they left the building in response to the ambush. Some of their friends were a little suspicious and were worried. And personally, I wasn't aware, being in the safety of my home in Canada, although in general I am aware of the dangerous situation. I think I really couldn't wrap my mind to what extent that the situation was dangerous. Despite my worries, I couldn't go back to sleep when I heard the news. That was September 6th, when they were arrested. Everybody was worried about Ghiyath in particular, because he was a sweet kid, a young man who was married, expecting his first child. He and his brother own a small company, an upholstery and furniture company. He was doing well, and he was also interested in sports. He had some medals in the Damascus area in bodybuilding. So a lot of his friends, I got to know him through Facebook, and because he became very close friends with my friends in Daraya, especially to Yahya Sharbaji and Osama Nassar and the others. So they told me that he was a smart kid, idealist, and that he joined the revolution because of the values that he believed in, and slowly he became so convinced about the model of nonviolence, so he became passionately involved and he started propagating the ideas. And it was him and Yahya and a few others who, for example, designed the initiative of the Rose, also what has become known as the Gandhi Initiative, because people have been calling Yahya Syria's Gandhi, and Ghiyath also has become known also as the Little Gandhi, because they were trying to teach the people of Daraya that this revolution is not only to bring down the regime, but it's also a revolution to bring down our faults and our shortcomings as a people, and our moral failures and our passivity and our negativity. And so they created these several ways of initiatives where they gave soldiers, security personnel, and even government thugs food, flowers. In particular, there was a large initiative where they gave water bottles attached, and a rose attached to the bottle, and a letter with kind words about how we are one people, and let us demonstrate peacefully, do not kill us, and other few phrases in informing these thugs and security personnel that we are one people and that we need to stand by each other. Yahya and Ghiyath were trying to teach people that by doing this, we're not only awakening the humanity of in the other side, but as well the humanity within ourselves. Yahya in particular kept saying that we need to be doing this constantly over and over, this sort of extending our compassion and hearts to the soldiers and to the security personnel, to also remind ourselves of our humanity and to believe in our humanity, that it was also for ourselves we were doing this, he kept telling people. As a result of their success and their popularity in the Daraya area and other areas, and the spread of their ideas, Yahya became a wanted number one in the area, and Ghiyath as well. In fact, they were harassing their families, and security generals were coming looking specifically for Ghiyath and threatening to kill him with their own hands if they find him. I actually thought they were bluffing and that they wanted to scare the youth movement, the non-violence movement, and that they weren't particularly threatened by the non-violence movement because they were not only unarmed, but that they went out of their way to extend compassion to the other side and to spread a message of pluralism and coexistence and love and respect among the Syrian people. So I think really my shock came because I didn't want to really believe that the regime really was that brutal. So when September 10th, the tortured body of Ghiyath was delivered back to his family, I realized we're up against something that is fairly brutal, and that what the Syrian people is doing, as some of my non-violence activists in the United States called it, is the story of the non-violent struggle of our century. I think this is why the Daraya story is extremely important to be exposed. They have a long history. I got to know them about 12 years ago. Yahya and many of his friends were imprisoned in 2003 for having done another initiative. What they tried to do during that time, because Syria was under severe martial law, is that they tried to use the small margin they had during that time to expand their active citizenship. So they cleaned up the neighborhood, they opened up a little library in the homes of one of their teachers, and they also started campaigns against bribes and against smoking. And they also created calendars with consciousness-raising phrases. And as a result, they were arrested and were sentenced from periods ranging from 3 months to 4 years. Yahya spent about 2.5 years in prison for having created a library and for having cleaned a neighborhood. So it's their non-violence is based on expanding creative and active ideas in which individuals are empowered, in which all members of society rediscover their own humanity. The reason I'm focusing on the Daraya group is because I personally have been in touch with them over the last 12 years and have seen them go in prison and come out of prison for having done acts that normally deserve medals in other contexts. And to see their bravery in the last few months, I am not only inspired, but sometimes people around me and I have come to believe that perhaps we can't even measure up to their level of courage in the face of a brutal machine, a dictatorship that is crushing the people with a certain blatant level of violence and carelessness for the value of individual lives. There are groups of this sort also in Hauran, around the city of Dar'a, in Dar'a. There are other groups I hear also in Homs that are committed in principle to non-violence as a moral alternative, not just as a tactic, which means that they are inspired by the ideals of Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and the civil rights movement. Because if people have been following the Syrian revolution, this revolution has become a revolution of civil rights, of human rights, of dignity, as the people have come to call it. It's a revolution of dignity over the inhumanity and the humiliation they have experienced for the last 41 years. I think it is significant for the Canadian public to become aware that their revolution is generally a non-violent revolution, a peaceful one at that, but at the same time that to realize there are core pockets of morally principled people who have been inspiring and working hard to spread the ideals of non-violence. And I think we are morally responsible, and we have the obligation to make the Syrian revolution not just a local revolution, but a global one, because it's a revolution about a paradigm shift, a shift from the armed model of existence to the peaceful and compassionate model of coexistence. I thank you for listening to this, and I would love to hear back from you through the organizers of the conference. Thank you for also following the events in Syria, and please keep your focus. We need the involvement of all people who are concerned with justice, compassion, and non-violence in the world.